All right, what's up, everybody? We are back. MMA DFS picks for DraftKings UFC Vegas 59. Jamahal Hill, Thiago Santos back at our normal location. We're here with some FanDuel tips, strategies, DraftKings picks, best bets, everything you need to be profitable on this card for Saturday's slate. Welcome, I'm Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, joined by Jake the Snake of MMADFS.com. Jake, what's up, dude?
A whole lot, man. Pretty bummed out that we lost that Whit Quinlan fight from this card, so we're down to only 11. But no, we move on.
Yeah, super disappointing to hear that, especially as it was one of our favorite fights to target on the card. Means even more condensed ownership, which means even more strategy and probably more dupes at the top of GPPs. But we're not playing for those. So what we do in these videos, if you've never seen them before, we break down the main event, what it means from a betting and DFS perspective. We talk about the newcomers on the card. There are 4 this week, and what their fighting outlooks look like for both betting and DFS. Fighters that don't have that many fights under their belt, not a ton of stats. We play good fighter, bad matchup. Nope, let's try this again. Good fighter, bad fighter. Good matchup, bad matchup. Everybody's favorite game. We'll talk about some prize picks plays. You see the promo code there. A fight to target in DFS. And we'll give out our stream parlay of the week 2 of our favorite bets. So stick around to the very end for that. All right, Jake. 11 fights. Jamahal Hill, Thiago Santos. Hill is a first round machine. Santos is the king of slowing fights down recently to an unbearable level. Scored 48 points in his most recent win in a 5-round decision, which is still baffling to me. But how do you see this fight playing out, and how does that impact betting and DFS?
Yeah, man, these guys have been on like the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of the times of their fights lately. Jamahal Hill, he's coming in 31 years old. Last 5 fights have all ended in the first 2 rounds. He's won 4 of those. One got overturned to a no contest. He tested positive for pot, but basically been knocking everyone out, except for when he got his elbow dislocated by Paul Craig, which was the only loss of his career. So, I mean, the guy's been a knockout machine. And he's stepping in against Thiago Santos, who literally has been in 13 straight rounds of inaction, and every time, Santos is like, oh, my next fight, totally going to be different. Next fight, totally going to be different. And it's like, all right, man, like, how long are you going to say that until the UFC stops putting you in 5-round fights? Because this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's 38 years old. He's gone 1-4 in his last 5 matches. He blew out both of his knees against John Jones and just hasn't been the same guy since. And I mean, you can't blame him. Like, the guy's still trying to get paid. He's like, yeah, I don't know what his contract is. Maybe he's only allowed to be in 5-round fights, but it doesn't make a ton of sense that the UFC keeps putting him in these spots when every single time it's just one disappointment after the next. I mean, he did fight. I mean, if you look at who he's fought, so he fought Rakic. Rakic is kind of a guy that'll hang back, patient. He fought Johnny Walker, who's crazy, but he was also kind of shell-shocked, hung back, didn't do much. Fought Ankalaev, another guy that's pretty patient, hangs back. So maybe we'll see Jamahal Hill finally be the aggressive type of fighter that forces something out of Santos, but I'm not willing to really bet on that here. I think that Santos is just so good at intimidating guys, sitting there, feinting. I mean, he's a scary guy to look at, but I mean, he's kind of a mirage at this point. So we'll see what happens. I think he's going to be able to slow the fight down. Maybe Hill will get aggressive enough that he can knock him out, but I think there's a pretty good chance we get out of the first round. And once that happens, it's going to be really tough for either of these guys to score well. So I'm kind of treating this as a round 1 or bust fight. I mean, really for both guys. Maybe they can get there in round 2, depending on how things go, but we're not going to see much striking volume. You look at Santos's career, he only absorbs 2.37 significant strikes per minute, only lands 3.77. Really, really good at slowing fights down. And I don't think Jamahal Hill is going to be super reckless and just dive in. I mean, even look at Jamahal Hill's last fight. I mean, that wasn't high volume. So I think that this is a pretty favorable main event. I think for high-risk contests, especially an 11-fight card, where you would think after watching Santos's last 3 fights, that like, all right, no one's going to play this main event, right? But people keep playing the favorite, even though they finally got off Santos in his last fight. He was like single-digit ownership. His opponents have all been like right around 45% owned every time. And on an 11-fight card, they're going to have to put the money somewhere. So I think we're still going to see Hill pretty highly owned, like significantly above his chances of getting the round 1 finish that he likely needs. So on a slate where we're desperately looking for leverage, I think being vastly under the field on Hill is a great start in high-risk contests. And in low risk, this is definitely not the type of main event we're looking at stacking. super low volume fight. The loser is going to score terribly. The winner might not even score well. So absolutely no reason to stack it in low risk contests. So that's kind of my take in the main event there.
I mean, super sharp approach from all angles. I agree with you every which way. And honestly, there are probably better 3-round fights to stack in cash games in low risk this week than this main event, right? I like it. Would it surprise you to see any of these other fights outscore this fight in general, right?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, maybe even the opposite.
Right. So, all right. So let's move on. 4 newcomers on the card. We did have 5 again. That Quinlan Witt fight is off. We have the Ultimate Fighter finales, which means 4 new fighters on the card. And so, Jake, we'll start with each matchup. Just give me the rundown of their fighting style and what we can expect the matchup to look like. So, first off, we have Zach Pauga and Mohammed Usman. So let's put them in the lineup here just so we have their cards readily available. All right, so Pauga versus Usman. Backgrounds, stylics to match up for DFS.
Yeah, so Zach comes in, he's 34, a little bit older to be making his debut, only 5-0. He started off playing football. He got signed by the Texans at running back in 2011. Didn't pan out, never played any. Then played rugby, didn't really pan out. Then became a cop for a while. He didn't start MMA in terms of being a pro until 2020, so relatively late in the game. And all 5 of his pro fights have been at light heavyweight. He moved up to heavyweight basically because he was like, oh, I can go on tough, and all these guys are terrible. So, he wasn't even worried about the move up. So, literally has never had a pro fight at heavyweight. Both of his fights on Ultimate Fighter were at heavyweight, obviously. Fought 2, not impressive fighters at all. Basically didn't get touched in either fight. So, we still haven't seen his chin get tested at heavyweight. So, I would call him more or less of a mystery. He's not super undersized. He's like 6'2". But he's definitely going to move back down to light heavyweight eventually. Like, he's not really a heavyweight, and you can tell kind of by how he fights. He's a little bit quicker, doesn't have massive power. I think he has 1 career knockout. So yeah, overall, he's just a guy that kind of relies on outlanding his way to victory at heavyweight. He did land a knockout in the second round in his second fight on the Ultimate Fighter, but God, the guy he was fighting was like a welder from Nebraska. Like, the guy talked about training like once every couple weeks. They're like, "Oh, what team are you?" He's like, "It's more about like a club." We, like, "Oh, cool." That's a great sign.
Yeah.
But for what it's worth, even though I thought we kind of saw Zach gas out in the second round of his first tough fight, he does train at Elevation Fight Team in Colorado with Curtis Blades. So theoretically, he should have good cardio. But you never know. Like, the guy, used to fight at 205 pounds. He puts on 40 pounds. That's probably not great for your cardio.
Right.
But, you never know. And then one other interesting thing is he actually trained with Muhammad Usman in the past, even before they lived in the same house for 12 weeks and were on Team Pena together. They actually trained before that. So these guys know each other super well. So that always adds like an interesting dynamic, when 2 guys have that much experience with each other. And then the other side of things, we got Muhammad Usman, younger brother of Kamaru, 33 years old, 7-2. I would say he's like exactly like his brother if you take away the striking, wrestling, durability, and then
Exact same fighter.
yeah, basically carbon copy other than that. Super overly jacked guy that used to play defensive end at Arizona. So just like a big dude. Also has a football background. Notably lost a 2018 decision to Dontel Mays. Obviously, that's not a good look on your record. And then his last pro fight also didn't go so well. Got dropped multiple times, and then he got subbed by a 40-year-old Brandon Sales who hadn't fought in like 3.5 years, and his only fight since he got knocked out. So doesn't look great either. Usman barely scraped by in both of his fights on the show. He had to go to the third round in the first one against a guy that seemed more interested in like talking shit than actually fighting. The second fight was a split decision. Could have gone either way. This guy's basically like the tiebreaker goes to the Usman on all of his fights. So
expect it again this time, right?
Right. Check out his split decision prop for sure. But yeah, I would say that Usman is, on paper, and if you look at a photo of him, you're like, oh, he's got potential. And then you watch him fight, and you're like, oh, this guy's terrible.
Yep.
And he also has a suspect chin, despite being a hugely jacked dude. So not a very impressive heavyweight. He just got here because of his name. This guy would not be here otherwise.
Very fair. Very fair. Not a very exciting fight that we want to target. The other one we have Brogan Walker, who we've charted basically 1,000 times because every opponent she's faced has ended up in the UFC, and her opponent Juliana Walker. So we have Juliana Miller, and Brogan Walker. So give me the rundown on these two fighters.
Yeah, so Miller comes in super green, 26 years old, only 2-1 in pro MMA fights, but she has a bunch of grappling matches, which is really her strong suit. Super hittable, no striking defense. She just runs in, ultra aggressive, throwing punches, looking for takedowns, looking for subs, which is great for DFS. You know, that's what we want. We want people that don't care about defense and they're only offensively minded, and that's totally what her deal is. Pretty good jujitsu. You know, she's on the show. She showed it. She landed like a belly down armbar in her second fight to get an early second round submission against probably not the best opponent. The first fight, you know, she was getting pieced up early, came back, you know, showed some toughness to come back and win it on the mat in the second half of that fight. I mean, she almost got eliminated in that first fight. It was pretty dicey there. I mean, she definitely lost the first round. I guess you could say she won the second round based on control time at the end of the round. But I mean, she was very close to getting knocked off the show. But at the same time, you know, if you fight her style, you're going to have some dicey fights because she gets hit a lot and she relies on takedowns. But overall, I think she's an interesting prospect based on her grappling. Definitely an aggressive person we're looking to target in DFS. And then her opponent, Brogan Walker, a little bit older, 32 years old, 7-9. Muay Thai background, but allegedly has a BJJ black belt. I'm not sure I'm buying that. Just if you watch her grappling, she defended like 8 takedowns or something in her last fight on Ultimate Fighter, but it came against a late replacement who had last fought at 115 pounds. So I think you have to kind of take that with a grain of salt because if you look at Walker's earlier tape, she was getting taken down all the time. Not a very good takedown defense prior to that. All but one of her pro fights have gone the distance, so really not much of a finisher. I think she got one submission win in her last fight before going on Tough, and it came against like a fighter with a losing record. I want to say Emily King or something, who has been submitted in like all 7 of her pro losses. So definitely got to look at the opponent there and be like, oh, okay, this girl gets submitted by everyone. But like you said, Walker has fought some UFC talent. She has a loss to Blanchfield recently. She has a loss to Pearl Gonzalez, which I think is a red flag. And then she beat Miranda Maverick, but you got to look at the context of that fight. Yeah, beat. First of all, I don't know if she really won that fight. Second of all, Miranda Maverick was like 21, going into her 4th pro fight, coming off an injury, a year-long layoff. Hadn't really learned to strike yet at that point. Miranda Maverick was just a pure wrestler. And honestly, I thought Maverick won based on control time, but apparently in Invicta, control time is a negative if you watch some of these fights. So not a very exciting fighter on Walker's end, but I would say much more defensively sound than Miller. So there's always a chance that she can keep the fight standing and just point her way to a decision win. If you look at who she fought on the Ultimate Fighter, she fought 2 replacement fighters, which is crazy because there was only 2 replacement fighters on the show and she got to fight both of them. So I think you need to take her wins with a little bit of a grain of salt. And she suffered a minor knee injury on the show, which maybe she's all the way healed. I feel like they said it was like a grade 1 MCL and it was probably long enough that it's okay, but still, like, you never know. I mean, that affects your training, affects your mental aspect. Like, definitely not a positive to have a knee injury, you know, a month and a half ago. But yeah, I think Miller is definitely the one we're interested there in DFS. And, you know, I could see Walker, you know, if you're looking at like her decision line or maybe as like a floor cash play or something, but far less excited in Walker.
For sure. And for our sake, we are happy that Miller did not lose the decision in her first tough fight because I don't know if you can read between the lines, but we're looking to target her on tonight's slate. So moving on, Jake, fighters that have 3 or less fights in the UFC, good fighter, bad fighter. This is a quick hitter, just to give you some context outside their limited number of stats. So we got to start with the most popular, the most expensive, the biggest favorite on the card, Terrence McKinney, who has 3 fights, 127, 97, and in a first round loss, 39 points to his name. Good fighter, bad fighter, good matchup, bad matchup.
Yeah, man, he's a good fighter and a good matchup.
Yeah, that sucks. He's going to be. What's your projected ownership on him today?
Like 55%. I mean, it's so stupid.
Super fun. Okay. Corey McKenna, who no one will play because they could just play McKinney instead, but she's 9,100 with 2 fights under her belt.
Yeah, she's a bad fighter, but in a good matchup.
Fair enough. All right. Ignoring the tough fighters because we talked about them already. Brian Battle, 8,700. He's got 2 wins in the UFC.
I still think he's kind of a bad fighter, but it's a good matchup.
Fair enough. All right, moving on down. Stephanie Egger, who the line has flipped in her favor. She has 3 fights under her belt. She's now the favorite at 8K. Good fighter, bad matchup. What do you think?
I think she's a good fighter. It's a bad matchup to get a finish, but I could see her grinding out a decision on the mat.
Fair enough. And then scrolling on down, anyone else we got here? Miranda Granger at the very bottom, who is facing McKinney.
Yeah, bad fighter, bad matchup.
Cool, super fun. And then Eric Gonzalez against McKinney.
Bad fighter, bad
Say it.
matchup.
Oh, say it, man. I thought you were gonna say it. I thought you were gonna say good matchup.
I mean, good matchup if he can survive for 3 minutes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, moving on. You see the promo code here at the top of the screen. Prize Picks. Use code Occupy when you sign up. Prize Picks has great. You parlay picks together. It's a great different way to get some action on UFC. Use promo code Occupy when you sign up to get a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. So get some free money. Use some of our picks. Really soft lines most of the time. Jake, what's a line that sticks out to you this week over on Prize Picks?
Yeah, I really like Luque over 60.5 significant strikes. Jeff Neal has never been finished before the third round. Super durable. I think we're going to see a high volume fight there.
Love that one. Love that one. Even just looking at his game logs, you'll see that over 60, 65 significant strikes is a pretty solid bet. So, all right, we've talked about a lot of things here. Let's get out of here soon. Fight that you want to target in DFS. Whoever wins likely scores a good number of points and has a good chance of being in the optimal lineup.
Yeah, well, since I was robbed of the Witt Quinlan fight to target, I think my backup is going to be Battle and Sato here. I think we're either going to see Sato knock Battle out in the first round, or we're going to see Battle submit Sato in round 2. I'd be kind of surprised to see this go to a third round unless Battle just literally circles the octagon throwing kicks the whole time, which hopefully we don't see happen. So I think we see a finish. I think the winner scores well there.
If anything, you love seeing a fighter in Sato who has scored 5, 6, and 19 points, but also 93 and 133 points in their wins.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get out of here. Stream parlay of the week, our favorite bets. Remember, Jake has all of his bets at MMADFS.com. He puts some of his favorite bets in the daily plug at OccupyFantasy.com, along with his favorite DFS plays, lineup construction tips, prize picks plays. Remember, all you need to destroy a card, basically, is at OccupyFantasy.com in the daily plug. Jake, I mean, we've talked about Miller a decent amount. I got to go with her money line here. I think a lot of paths to victory for her. So, pretty safe bet on my end, but I'll go Juliana Miller money line for my end of the parlay.
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, got to get back on track somehow. I'm gonna go with McKinney Gonzalez. Fight ends in round 1 KO at plus 180. I feel like that line's a little bit too wide. That covers both if McKinney gets a knockout or if McKinney gasses out and Gonzalez gets a knockout. So I'm gonna go with that. And between those two, that'll be plus 410.
I like it. I like it. Pretty safe parlay, but I like both ends of it. Value on both sides. Real quick, do you think McKinney should be lined at, what is he, minus 800, 900 now? Do you think he should be
No,
my favorite?
no, because I think he's a round 1 or bust fighter, and his round 1 line's negative 165. So that's a pretty wide gap between the money line and round 1 line.
I think that's fair. Fair to say. All right. That'll do it for this video. Appreciate you all listening. As always, still plenty of time to digest this video and get the information from MMADFS.com, where Jake writes the sheet. Fighter breakdowns for betting and DFS. Also has some premium content as well. OccupyFantasy.com. We talked about the daily plug, the Occupy model, our proprietary metric, which ranks every fighter on FanDuel and DraftKings. Again, say this every week. We get more and more signups every week. People are they're curious to see what it's about. So come check it out. One of the most predictive engines in MMA DFS. And then our lineup builder allows you to build up to 300 lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings using our optimal lineup criteria. You don't want to miss it. All the links are in the description below. If you have any more questions, you can always join our Discord server, OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. Chat with us throughout the day. Sweat the fights with us at night. It's always a good time. We'd love to have you. Come join us. And again, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Get notified when we go live, upload any new videos. We do these UFC videos pretty much every single week. We'll be off next week. I'm on vacation, but we'll be back the week after that for the pay-per-view event. And again, we appreciate it. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. Helps us let you know that you like the video. So for Jake, at DFS_MMA on Twitter, I'm at Brian Jester FF. Appreciate you listening as always, and good luck in tonight's UFC Vegas 59 card.